Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we are, well, plunging headfirst into the story of the RMS Titanic.
And you might think you know it all from the movies, right?
Yeah,
Jack, Rose, the big staircase.
exactly. But we're going way deeper. We're looking at the science, the engineering, the human decisions, the social stuff that all swirl together.
Our mission today is basically to pull out the most important insights from this material for you.
Think of it as a shortcut to understanding what was really going on beneath the surface, pardon the pun. Get ready for some aha moments.
Okay, let's dive in. Set and scene. April 15th, 1912. It's 12:27 a.m. Titanic's captain orders his assistant, Jack Phillips, send a distress message. CQD. Yeah.
CQD, yeah, the old code. And Phillips tries 6 times, no luck. Then he notices the code's actually changed to SOS.
The one we all know.
The very one. And here's the really mind-boggling part. All the ships nearby heard that SOS. Every single one, except the closest, the SS Californian.
Why didn't they hear it?
Their wireless operator, he was asleep, just taking a break.
Oh, God, one person asleep.
And it changed everything, not just for the people on the Titanic that night, but it fundamentally changed maritime law forever. Showed that, human vigilance is just as vital as any piece of tech.
It's just infuriating, isn't it? How many lives might have been saved if someone had just been awake at the radio? But okay, to really get why the Titanic sank, we need to understand how ships float at all.
Yeah, we need to go way back. Back to ancient Greece.
Archimedes.
Archimedes. Our source actually points out, without him, maybe no big ships. The famous story, maybe true, maybe not, is King Hire II asks him about a crown.
If it was pure gold.
Yeah.
Without melting it down.
Exactly. Archimedes is stumped, goes for a bath, steps in,
Yeah.
sees the water rise.
Eureka.
Runs through the streets, supposedly naked, shouting, "I found it!" He realized an object displaces water equal to its own volume.
Which solved the crown puzzle.
It did. But more importantly for us, it's the foundation for buoyancy. The law of buoyancy. A fluid pushes up on something submerged. That's the buoyant force.
Okay.
So to make something float, you basically need its average density to be less than the water it's in.
Right, like an inflated soccer ball floats, but a deflated one sinks.
Precisely. Or a solid lump of iron sinks, but shape that same iron into a big hollow sphere, and it floats. You increase the volume, keep the mass the same, average density goes down.
And that's the basic equation for building ships.
That's it. That's how you build something as massive as the Titanic.
Okay, so speaking of the Titanic, White Star Line finishes building it March 31st, 1912. Took 3 years.
And it was immense, the largest passenger ship of its time. 269 meters long. That's like, what, 3 football fields?
Yeah, about that. And 53 meters high, like a 17-story building.
Huge. The crew apparently needed 2 whole weeks just to learn their way around the ship.
Wow. So how did Archimedes' principle apply to this giant?
Well, they used it directly, increased the volume massively, hollowed it out, to reduce that average density. And the key safety feature, or so they thought, was the 16 watertight compartments.
Sealed off from each other below the waterline.
Exactly. The idea was if you hit something, damage a compartment, the captain seals it off, water doesn't spread. Simple.
Sounds logical. But there was a catch.
A massive catch. A fatal one, really. The design could only handle 4 compartments flooding, maximum.
Only 4.
If a 5th one flooded, the ship would sink. No question. That number, 4 versus 5, became everything.
And yet, the marketing. They call it Unsinkable, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. The ship that cannot sink. That was the slogan. Bold, to say the least.
Where did that confidence, that arrogance almost, come from? Was it just marketing spin?
Not entirely spin. It actually came from an incident involving Titanic's sister ship, the SS Olympic.
Really? What happened?
In 1911, the Olympic was sort of racing alongside a warship, HMS Hawk, and the Hawk actually hit it, punctured 2 of the Olympic's watertight compartments.
Hit by a warship, and it didn't sink.
Didn't sink, despite being hit by a vessel literally designed to sink other ships. So White Star Line saw this and thought, perfect.
Marketing gold.
Total propaganda fuel. They basically told everyone, see, our ships are unsinkable. They even put Captain Edward Smith, who was captaining the Olympic during that collision, in charge of the Titanic for its maiden voyage.
Wow. Like a stamp of unsinkable approval. That's chilling in hindsight.
It really is. Talk about tempting fate.
Now, something else often missed. There was a fire on board before it even sailed.
Yeah, a pretty significant one. In a coal bunker. Started about 10 days before the maiden voyage, burned for several days.
Burst into flames on its own.
Spontaneous combustion. It happens with large piles of coal. Oxidation builds up heat.
Did that fire play a role in the sinking?
Well, there are a couple of theories. One is that the heat weakened the steel bulkhead, the wall separating compartments, making it easier for water to break through later.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the other theory, which seems more accepted, is actually kind of ironic. To fight the fire, the crew had to move a lot of coal, like over 300 tons, from one side of the ship, the starboard side, to the port side.
How would moving coal help?
It rebalanced the ship. Later, when the iceberg hit and the ship started listing to one side, that earlier shift of coal actually counteracted the tilt a bit.
Seriously. So the firefighting helped it stay afloat longer.
It seems so. By maybe 40 minutes, they estimate. Extended the sinking time from under 2 hours to 2 hours and 40 minutes.
40 minutes. That could have been crucial.
Absolutely crucial time for rescue ships to get closer. It's one of those strange twists.
Okay, so we have the unsinkable myth, the coal fire.
Native.
Now let's get back to those warnings being ignored.
Oh.
The SS Californian again.
Right. The Californian is sailing ahead of Titanic, runs into a lot of ice. Its wireless operator does the right thing, sends warnings to all ships nearby, including Titanic.
But Titanic's operator, Jack Phillips again.
Yep. He's swamped, apparently, sending personal messages for the wealthy passengers. He gets the first ice warning, kind of brushes it off. Then a second, more urgent one comes from the Californian.
Oh.
He basically tells the Californian operator, "Shut up, I'm working," just blows him off. And crucially, that message never gets past to Captain Smith on the bridge.
Unbelievable arrogance.
Yeah.
While the Californian stops because the ice is so bad.
Titanic just keeps plowing ahead, full speed.
And the timing.
Yeah.
Just
It's just gut-wrenching. It's 11:30 p.m. The Californian's operator, Cyril Evans, decides he's knackered, turns off his radio for a 2-hour break.
10 minutes later.
10 minutes later, 11:04 p.m., Titanic hits the iceberg.
And later, when Titanic is sending SOS calls, the Californian crew sees flares.
They saw the flares, yeah, but they thought maybe they were just company signals, fireworks, identification, not distress. The captain, Stanley Lord, was asleep too. Apparently wasn't too concerned when woken up about them. By the time the Carpathia got there, hours later, having raced through the same ice field, it was too late for so many.
Just a cascade of errors. And then there's the missing binoculars.
Another small detail with huge consequences. The ship's binoculars were locked in a cabinet. The officer who had the key, David Blair, had been reassigned just before sailing and, oops, forgot to leave the key behind.
So the lookouts had no binoculars.
Just their naked eyes. They spotted the iceberg at 11:30 p.m., only gave them 10 minutes warning. Survivors later said binoculars would have given them enough time to steer clear. Another tiny failure.
10 minutes. So First Officer Murdoch tries to react.
He does. Orders engines stopped, rudder hard to port, try to slow down, close the watertight doors.
But it wasn't enough.
Not enough time, not enough room. 11:04 p.m., bang, hits the iceberg along its side. 5 punctures across 5 compartments.
And there's that number again, 5. The limit was 4.
Exactly. And this is where the design flaw becomes fatal. Those watertight compartments, they weren't sealed at the top.
Like ice cube trays.
Pretty much.
Huh?
As the first 5 compartments filled with water, the bow dipped lower and lower. The water just spilled over the tops of the dividing walls into the next compartment, then the next, like a domino effect.
So once 5 were breached, it was just a matter of time.
Game over. Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, was actually on board. When he heard 5 compartments were flooded, he knew immediately. His reported assessment was just 4 words. The ship is sinking.
Chilling. Is there any truth to the idea that hitting it head-on might have been better?
It's a provocative theory, yeah. Our source mentions a German ship in 1907 that hit an iceberg head-on and survived. A head-on collision would likely damage fewer compartments, maybe just 2 or 3, well within the ship's limit.
Though passengers might have been injured from the sudden stop.
Oh, definitely. Inertia would have thrown people around. But the ship itself might have survived. The glancing blow along the side, breaching 5 compartments, that was the worst possible scenario.
So the water pours in, the ship tilts more and more.
The weight becomes immense, the pressure on the hull is unbelievable, and the icy cold water makes the steel brittle. Instead of bending, it snaps, like glass.
And then it breaks apart.
Literally splits in half. Around 2:13 a.m., the bow section sinks relatively smoothly, but the stern section, it breaks up violently under the stress, sending wood and debris flying. Some of that debris sadly killed people in the water, but other pieces, ironically, became makeshift rafts.
What a horrifying end. Okay, let's talk lifeboats. We know the basic problem.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Not nearly enough. The ship was designed to potentially carry 60, Maritime law at the time, based on the ship's tonnage, not passenger numbers, only required 48.
And how many did Titanic actually have?
Only 20.
20.
20! Do the math. 20 boats, maybe 65 people each. That's capacity for 11,178 people.
Out of how many on board?
About 2,200. So over 1,000 people had absolutely no chance of getting a lifeboat seat from the start. It was built-in disaster.
And even the boats they had weren't used effectively.
No. Captain Smith hadn't run any lifeboat drills. Loading, which should have taken maybe 10 minutes, took 30. And worse, many boats were launched half-empty.
Why? Were they scared the boats couldn't hold the weight?
Exactly. Fear they'd buckle under a full load, so they lowered them partially filled. Just tragic inefficiency compounding the lack of boats.
And the famous women and children first rule? It wasn't applied equally, was it?
Not at all. That priority really only worked for first and second class passengers. They were on the upper decks, closer to the lifeboats.
What about third class? Steerage.
Their fate was horrifyingly different. They were often kept behind locked iron gates during the voyage. Partly class prejudice, partly misguided fears about disease or hygiene.
Locked gates during the sinking.
Yes. Which meant many couldn't even reach the boat deck to try and get a lifeboat. The movie scene with Jack, a third-class passenger, freely roaming the upper decks and saving Rose, that just wouldn't have happened. He'd have been trapped below.
So the gates were a death sentence for many.
The numbers are stark. About 3/4 of third-class passengers died. That's roughly 500 out of 700 people, locked away from safety.
That's criminal. It highlights such a brutal class divide. Yet, I heard third class on Titanic was actually quite good compared to other ships.
Surprisingly, yes. Our source points this out. Compared to steerage on other liners, Titanic's third class was pretty luxurious. Private cabins, running water, electricity, heating, even their own dining room and buffet. On other ships, steerage passengers often had to bring their own food.
So better conditions, but still trapped when it mattered most.
Exactly. Second class had more space, libraries, smoking rooms. First class, well, that was pure opulence. Gym, squash court, swimming pool, hairdressers, even their own onboard newspaper, the Atlantic Daily Bulletin. Ritz hotel interiors. Food stores were insane. 34,000 kilos of meat, 40,000 eggs.
Wow. And did first-class passengers fare better in the sinking?
Dramatically better. Almost all first-class children survived. The only exception mentioned is little Lorraine Allison, who tragically drowned because her parents were searching for her baby brother, who, unbeknownst to them, had already been put safely in a lifeboat.
Heartbreaking. Okay, before we move on, let's quickly address the movie scene again. Jack and Rose on the floating door. Could they both have fit?
Ah, the eternal debate. Physics says no. Archimedes again. The door, that piece of wreckage, had a certain buoyancy. The combined weight of two adults would have overcome that buoyant force.
So it would have sunk or at least become unstable and tipped them off.
Pretty much. Romantic, yes. Physically possible, no. One person, maybe. Two, very unlikely to both survive like that.
Okay, myth busted by science. So after this colossal disaster, things had to change, right? What were the big legal and practical changes?
Oh, the changes were massive and almost immediate. Maritime law was overhauled.
Lifeboats first, I assume.
Absolutely, no more basing it on tonnage. Lifeboat capacity now had to be based on the number of passengers, specifically 125% of the total capacity. Enough for everyone, plus extra.
What else?
Mandatory lifeboat drills. Crew had to practice twice a month. Radios had to be manned 247 in shifts. No more sleeping operators missing distress calls.
That makes sense.
Flares and rockets were designated only for distress signals. No more confusion with identification signals. The International Ice Patrol was created airplanes scouting the ocean for icebergs.
And ship design.
Big changes there, too. Ships started being built with double bottoms and double sides for extra protection. And crucially, those watertight bulkheads, the walls between compartments, had to extend much higher up to prevent that spillover effect that doomed Titanic.
So Titanic wasn't just a ship that sank. It genuinely altered the course of maritime history.
Absolutely. It was the biggest human disaster at sea in peacetime up to that point. It forced a global reckoning with safety, technology, and human error.
People tried to explain it in all sorts of ways, didn't they? Conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah. Theories about J.P. Morgan engineering the sinking to kill off rivals, or a cursed Egyptian mummy sarcophagus being transported in the hold. All baseless, according to our source.
More dramatic than the truth, maybe.
Perhaps. Some saw it more philosophically, like nature slapping down human hubris. You built an unsinkable ship, watch this.
But the most logical explanation, based on the evidence.
It really comes down to what the source calls a series of minuscule human errors. It wasn't one single thing.
It was everything combined.
Exactly. The design flaw with the bulkheads, not enough lifeboats, the ignored warnings, the sleeping radio operator, the missing key for the binoculars, the captain's decision to turn instead of hitting head-on possibly. Each one may be survivable on its own, but together.
A perfect storm of small mistakes.
Creating an unavoidable catastrophe. And the deepest irony, the source points out, is that the Titanic itself was meant to be the ultimate safety net, the unsinkable solution, the perfect machine.
Which leads to a really interesting final thought, doesn't it? About perfection itself.
Yeah, it's this paradox. Human progress comes from striving for perfection, right? Pushing limits, innovating.
But the danger comes when we actually believe we've achieved it.
Precisely. That belief that perfection is reached, that's often the start of the slide towards disaster. Because that's when we stop looking for flaws, stop planning for failure, stop trying to improve.
We get complacent.
We celebrate the assumed perfection and deny that anything could possibly go wrong. Think about that orchestra playing on deck as the ship went down.
Playing music while 1,500 people faced death. It's denial on a grand scale.
It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? For that human tendency to ignore the danger signs when we've bought into our own invincibility.
So the Titanic story ultimately is a lesson in humility. A reminder to stay vigilant, acknowledge we're not perfect, and always, always have a backup plan.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about embracing that possibility of failure, learning from it, constantly questioning, not just assuming we've got it all figured out.
Well, this has been fascinating. Hopefully this deep dive gave you listening a completely fresh look at a story maybe you thought you knew inside out.
Yeah, there's always more beneath the surface.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really appreciate you spending your time with us, and we'll be back soon to explore another topic in depth.